It's been a damaging week for Scottish football on the continent. Celtic dropped down to the Europa League, Hibs suffered their own late collapse and joined Rangers in crashing out of Europe altogether, while Motherwell couldn't quite pull off a miracle in Freiburg. At least Hearts got through in the Conference League and they're straight back into action on Saturday. We'll look ahead to that and the other weekend fixtures. Hello, I'm Andrew Petrie, and this is the Scottish Football Podcast with all the news, views, and analysis you need on Friday, the 28th of August.
We got what we deserved. If we'd won it in penalties, we'd have took it, of course, because of how important it is. But we'd only have covered over the cracks, to be honest. I'm mortified with the performance.
The pressure is already mounting on Derek McInnes as Rangers boss after his side exited Europe before the end of August. Their penalty loss to Czech side Jablonec was called the worst performance in recent memory. Elsewhere, Hibs snatched defeat from the jaws of victory against Gent at Easter Road.
And Sek is through, right side of the box, this is on a plate and it's in, and Gent look to have won it in stoppage time. It looks like an own goal off O'Hara. Hibs were heading for the Conference League just a few minutes ago. Now they're heading out to Easter Road.
On the cusp of reaching European League phase football for the very first time, David Gray's side conceded 2 late goals to seal their fate. We'll fill you in on all of last night's action, as well as the Premiership fixtures this weekend.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
Well, I'm delighted as ever to be joined by former Hibs, among a few other clubs, midfielder Scott Allan and current Livingston man Cammy Kerr. Gents, plenty to get into, so let's dive straight in. Only one place to start, really. Rangers last night, that loss to Jablonec on penalties. I was listening to Andy Halliday's analysis on Sportsound last night. It was a pretty withering assessment of what's going wrong at Ibrox right now. Scott, how does Derek McInnes turn this around?
I think he's still searching himself, and that'll be the $1 million question for himself on that flight back today, is what he's going to do to try and turn this around. Rangers go to Petrie on Sunday. It doesn't get any easier for him. He was brutally honest about the performance, and some of the quotes that will be taken from the game by Rangers fans especially. Certainly us as analysts looking at the game and what he's saying about his team, he's really stuck. And for me, I think he's in a really precarious position now in how he tries and turn this around. I think players coming off at half time, week to week, the morale in the group will be really poor. There's no getting away from it. I think when you look at performance, it is nowhere near good enough, but not a result that I didn't expect. If I'm being totally honest, it was one of the games where I was looking at it going, I questioned all last week after the 1-0 victory how he's going to set up for this sort of game. Is he going to go for it? Is he going to sit in? He literally said himself that the team doesn't know what it is, and ultimately that falls on Derek McInnes and what they're doing in the training pitch. And I know he said about elite preparation, the performance alludes to anything but that. If we're totally honest, yes, they're devoid of, I want to say, quality. But at the same time, you've got to take into the fact that Rangers weren't playing against a top side. That's a game with what Rangers had, and what Rangers have spent should be coming through quite comfortably for me when you look at the teams at Hibs and Motherwell had to come up against to get through the league phase. So for me, things have got to change very quickly for Rangers. How they then muster that together come Sunday. Players, especially now, are going to have to look deep within themselves to try and find a performance, because Stephen Robinson and Aberdeen will be praying in this sort of Rangers team in that sort of mood coming to Petrie.
Cammy, Scott touched upon it there, Derek McInnes' quotes last night, where he suggested that the team still didn't have that style. Now, he's not been there all that long, obviously, but were you surprised to hear him speak so candidly about not really knowing what his best 11 and what his best style is?
Yeah, I am. I mean, like, usually, you know what a Derek McInnes side is all about. It looks very, very short of that just now. But as Scotty touched on, you've brought in so many signings. You're chopping and changing it straight away. And he'll be soul searching himself, looking for his best team. I looked at the team last night. It just looks like I saw parts of the game as well. They just do not look like a team that are ready to go and compete at the highest level. And as again, Scotty touched on, that was a game last night that should have been a Rangers win on paper, obviously. But again, it never works like that.
No, it doesn't. One game that probably went the same way as it would have on paper, Cammy, was the Motherwell game. They had a very, very hard task in going up against Freiburg. I think they were the finalists in last year's Europa League. Did they at least leave Germany with their heads held high?
Yeah, I think Motherwell, they have. I think if you look over the two legs, things probably went against them at key moments. They lost the late goal at 3-1, obviously at home. That probably gave them a massive sucker punch. They got out of that 2-1 last week. They probably would have went, right, we could have a wee go early on or sit in for the first 50, 60, then go for it. They got a sending off at a poor time last night. And then you go chasing the game and Freiburg, as you said, a top team. So, yeah, Motherwell can certainly hold their head up high on that one.
We'll see how that affects them come the weekend. Scott, you were at Easter Road for us last night. Can you quite believe what happened in the last couple of minutes of that game?
No, I think a lot of Hibs fans will believe because they've seen it happen before. But for me, for what they put in, it was... I'm still a bit in disbelief. Even when I was driving home last night, they looked in total control, and I know that sort of game against that sort of opposition with what's at stake, that the nerves naturally do creep in a little bit near the end. But at the same time, I've seen Hibs go over there last week and defend solidly as they have done over the last kind of 3 weeks, to be honest. When balls have come in their box and managed to get their head on it. And there was so much positivity about the second half, and the fans and players really connected. It was a really good performance second half up until that corner kick where they have to go and defend and detach yourself. Big Burgess, you'd had a warning sign a few minutes earlier where he sneaked in near the front post and it came back off Salinger's near post, and I think Jason Kerr at the time managed to nod it away, and you think then that's your little bit of sign we need to be on here, especially from set pieces, and you lose a goal in that manner to allow Gent to equalise was really disheartening. You could feel that tension then come into the stadium, but then Hibs go back up the other end of the pitch and there's a chance it drops to Callum Wright. For me, it's guilt edged. He's got to take that chance, and Hibs then go back into 3-2. And then the $1 million question will be if Davy Gray and that Hibs team had a free kick again, would they send everybody up at that moment and not just take extra time? Listen, I was of the opinion that I felt the game was still there for Hibs to go and win. I thought, but in that situation, it goes in. It's not a great ball in, it's not a great delivery. I'm sure it's Callum Wright who delivered it. It's not really on top of the Gent back line. It's kind of wide and there's no real purchase on the header. It gets cleared long and then it's up to Keanu Megwa just to try and put it in an area where it's not going to hurt you if it does fall to a Gent player. Unfortunately for him, just on the pitch, he heads it straight in the middle of the pitch, and it's a counter-attack, and the speed that they counter-attacked with. Chai was doing his best to try and get back in and recover it. You think if he doesn't get a touch on it, it's going to get slid into the back of the net anyway, and once that went in, it was game over for Hibs. But I'm trying to put a bit of positive spin on it because the performance was there for Hibs, especially second half, but it doesn't make it any easier for the players, that coaching staff and especially the fans to go out in that sort of manner, because you certainly felt that Hibs had enough in them to see that game out from what we've seen, whether it was at Ibrox and away at Gent last week. Really disappointing.
Yeah, you saw Kanayo Megwa, I think, in tears at the end of the game. And speaking of that, Cammy, I think Derek McInnes, after the Rangers shootout, said that he had Finlay Curtis and James Penrice in tears, the two players that missed penalties for Rangers. They were in tears in the dressing room. As a player, would you want your manager to be coming out and saying that so publicly if you kind of made that mistake? Or would you want him to kind of maybe keep that behind closed doors?
No, maybe personally I'd like it behind closed doors, but again, I think everything nowadays as football players, everything comes out regardless of, just the way the world is. Listen, it shows these boys, it means so much to them. It's an emotional game, there's so much at stake. for these boys. And listen, it can spill over at times emotionally. So I do understand the emotion attached to it as well.
Well, if you want to listen to more on those games, you'll find the Sports Sound reaction on the feed for this podcast. Right, on to future matters, and this weekend's Premiership ties will start with Celtic against Falkirk. Scott, how do Martin O'Neill's side bounce back from such an abject defeat through the week?
It's just what's expected of Celtic Football Club, especially after talking about blowing Leeds. That we'll not get into that, but we'll look at Celtic. The way to bounce back is quite easy for Celtics to go and win the game and try and win the game comfortably. There'll still be a sour taste in the Celtic fans' mouth. There's no getting away from that, but all they can do is roll their sleeves up and go back out and perform. That is ultimately the job. So it's a game where I think on paper, Falkirk are definitely in a transitional period. You look at Dundee United putting a bid in for their captain Brad Spencer, so you'd imagine they're a little bit unsettled with that sort of news. So for me, it's a game where Celtic have to come through it. And it'll be interesting to see where players are at injury-wise, because a lot of questions being asked about fitness, and rightly so, in my eyes, about that Celtic team on Tuesday night. So time to stand up and be counted.
And Cammy, as for Falkirk, have you seen anything from them to suggest a shock on the cards? Like Scott says, I think they are in quite a transitional moment right now.
Yeah, I feel like we're kind of saying this about so many teams. Like, we're 3 games in and everyone goes, "Oh, it's early on in the season," and it is. But I don't understand how teams go through such a change all the time. I understand that they've lost big players, which was needed to fill that gap, but Falkirk have totally revamped their team completely. I know they're still bringing in people throughout this week. I've noticed they've brought in a few this week again. So I just think it'll be a Celtic win. I do. I think, as Scotty has said, that as we all know, a team like Celtic, the pressure is enormous, and you're expected to win every game, which is fine at Celtic. So they need to go and put on a show at the weekend, and I can't see anything other than a Celtic victory.
Yeah, I don't think too many will be backing Falkirk to do something spectacular for them. Over to Tynecastle, and it's Hearts against St Johnstone. How many changes, Scott, do you think Wouter Vranken's going to have to make after his side went the distance in their penalty shootout victory it was against Rapid Vienna?
No doubt there'll be changes. I think the worrying was seeing obviously Tom Renault and crutches after the game, who's been a real positive at the start of the season for Hearts. But I think at the same time, Wouter Rankin has showed a bit of trust in the depth of his squad. He's gave everybody opportunity, and I don't think it will be any different come the weekend. And it's a lot easier to make changes off the back of that sort of victory, especially away in Europe with qualification now guaranteed. So I think Hearts are in a really good place, and I think as much as you look at the games against Sturm Graz and Benfica, you could actually see what he was trying to do, and now that's coming together. You're seeing it come to fruition. Players are now starting to be really effective in games. You see Calvin Miller hobbling with cramps, going volleys. But I feel it'll be a game where it's a good game for Hearts off the back of that win especially. But he's looking to use his squad, and Hearts will be eyeing up that second place.
And Scott, I think Stephen Thompson mentioned this last night, which was really interesting. He said the legs aren't ever quite as heavy if you've had a good result midweek. Is that true? Is that kind of mindset, does it play into actual physical tiredness as well?
Well, I was listening when Tomo said that. Yeah, of course. I think, like I said to you, when you're off the back of a good win and players are performing, you're actually really looking forward to the next game. If you kind of flip that with how Rangers will look, they'll be. But I would imagine that a lot of the players there will be looking at that trip to Pittodrie with trepidation. So it's a completely different mindset. I totally agree with Tomo. And Hearts just want to keep on riding that wave.
And Cammy, as for the St Johnstone players, when they would have been maybe not necessarily watching, but certainly seeing the score come through, for the players and the staff there, would they have been thinking, "Oh, great, it's gone to extra time," or will they have been thinking, "Oh no, they've got to win. They're going to be absolutely buzzing"?
Yeah, probably a bit of both. I think we've been there before in dressing rooms when you've watched a game maybe during the week and you get to a Saturday or Sunday and you're, they'll be tired, they had a game midweek. It never really works that way. Sometimes you think, right, we've got the fresher legs, and the team that have played midweek come out and, right out the traps at you. I think psychologically for Hearts, the win during the week is so big, because just a couple of weeks ago, a few results not going their way, there was massive amounts of pressure already mounting on the manager, etc. And they've turned it around so quick. Scotty touched on people like Calvin Miller and stuff. Just that performance rallies the boys in the dressing room, I think, as well. Seeing people going beyond themselves in the last minutes of the game, trying to push themselves at each other. I saw the scenes in the dressing room. These things all add up, and they can just kickstart your season. So I think it'll be a difficult one for St Johnstone, and one that I expect, again, a Hearts victory at the weekend.
You mentioned the scenes in the dressing room at the end. I think is it Gotcha? Somebody that I used to know was what they were all singing. Cammy, have you ever had a song that a team's always like to blare out the karaoke after a win?
Oh, I don't know. There's a few songs that spring to mind. I usually get punted up on the karaoke to sing a song anyway, but I'll keep that for another time.
I was going to say we'll get you on the tunes at some point. What about you, Scott?
I've shared the dressing room with Cammy. Absolutely keep him away from the tunes. I like moan stuff. I think now it's all kind of similar, isn't it? You get the dance tunes on and you celebrate. But if it was up to me, I'd maybe go a wee bit old school. But listen, it's scenes you love to see. It's Hearts are the ones who can come away from this week with huge kudos out to all the Scotland clubs. They're not getting away from it, and it comes from without a ranking, being brave when they get down to 10 men. So deserve all the credit that's coming their way.
Yeah, from one manager on a high to another under pressure. Killie against Dundee United. Scott, Jim Goodwin, is his jacket on a bit of a sugary peg at this early stage of the season?
No. Listen, he's obviously been at Dundee United a long time. I get there's frustrations there with the results, but what I have seen since the start of the season, there has been periods of the game where they've looked like they could really go and be dangerous. He's obviously completely changed his style of play, which I think at the same time, not every club who's doing that gets instant success. I don't think Dundee United's going to get instant success, but I do think they'll come together. I do think it's a difficult tie. There's no getting away from a really difficult game down in Killie. I don't think they've won there for a long, long time, Dundee United. So I think he's still trying to find his best forward line. There's been chopping and changing. And that's what comes when you're not scoring goals. They have been creating chances, they've just not really been taking the goals when they come that way. And when you play a bit more expansive, you're always going to leave the door open the odd time. And when it's came down to these small moments in both boxes for Dundee United, it just hasn't clicked with them. But it's a good chance for them to go and change their fortunes.
And Cammy, that's maybe been the problem for Kilmarnock. They look pretty solid at the top end of the pitch, but at the back, they've been leaking quite a lot of goals. Now, Neil McCann's, I think, had 2 weeks to try and sort that out. Do you reckon he'll have been able to shore them up defensively in that time?
You'd hope so. I think, knowing Neil McCann, I think that is something that he'll have been working extremely hard at. I think he's somebody that if he knows something's wrong, he'll work continuously at it. So you'd like to think that they'll be a bit more solid come the weekend. I think it's a very interesting game, actually. I think it's one that obviously both teams are yet to get a win in the league. I think that's right. But, Killie are off the back of the cup win against Ayr. That should give them a bit of confidence. I hope it was a late win. But, really, really interesting one, and one that I don't know how to call that one, to be honest. I think similar to Scotty, I think United are... I think they're not far away. I honestly don't. I watched the Dundee derby last week. Great win for Dundee, but United did probably have more of the game. They just didn't execute their chances, and that's a big thing that Jim will be looking to change.
Right, on to Sunday and the big one. Aberdeen against Rangers. Under pressure, Derek McInnes returning to his old haunt. Scott, I'm sure he'll get a warm welcome. We talked about the reaction that he should get from his side, but realistically, what have you seen from this Rangers team to kind of give you any expectation that they will bounce back positively? Do you think it will be one where they're still a little bit hiding?
No, there's not. I haven't seen anything since first game of the season that would give me any belief that Rangers can come up there and come away with 3 points, unless it comes down again to moments where somebody steps up and shows a bit of magic, which I feel that Derek McInnes is kind of alluding on when he talks about quality. But in terms of style and how that game's going to look from Rangers with and without the ball, it's very hard to predict. We can only go with what we've seen, and that's from half to half. You really don't know what you're going to get from Rangers. What you do know is if it continues in the same vein, they ain't going to win a game of football against a Stephen Robinson team at Petrie. And that is a team just shot at any confidence. And I touched on it at the top of the show about that mindset of the player. Players are literally going half to half wondering, right, if I don't perform, I'm off at half time. Guys walking out with an armband at the start of the game, off at half time. And there's just no cohesion there. One shot on target last night to then follow that up with an away trip to Petrie is genuinely probably one of the worst games that Rangers could have at this moment in time. So yeah, if Rangers manage to come through, it'll be a lot of soul searching would have had to be done the last couple of days, and the players have managed to finally this season look like a team, and that's the sort of performance it will take, because Rangers are going to be asked questions. Stephen Robinson will be sitting there watching that team saying we need to play on every bit of Rangers' weaknesses at this moment in time. So I'm sure there'll be a lot watching on Sunday to see how that goes, but a really difficult game for Rangers.
Well, that's exactly it. Cammy, do you think Stephen Robinson would have been licking his lips at the prospect of this fixture, thinking, well, I know exactly how we're going to get under their skin?
Yeah, I do, and I think that there's not been much evidence though to say that Rangers would come in and even take the game to Aberdeen. I've not seen it at all. I think you talk about leaders and you look around the squad and you're maybe struggling to find people that are going to, take the game by the scruff of the neck. Again, I don't want to keep mentioning just because Scotty's touched on it, but Petrie is one of the worst places to go up to at any time. Especially when you're on a bad run. I think Aberdeen they'll be the ones at the weekend taking the game to Rangers. I really do. I think that'll be Stephen Robinson's message. And yeah, it'll be a really interesting one to look at.
Yeah, I'm sure the Aberdeen fans are excited about that one. Right, on to Dens Park and the Scott Allan derby, I suppose. Dundee against Hibs. Stephen Presley, man of the moment, like we said, up against a dejected David Gray. Scott, who comes out on top there?
Really hard one to call. I think you'd probably point at Dundee coming away. Obviously off the back of Hibs' disappointment last night, as you touched on. And I think David Gray spoke about it, didn't he, after the game last night in the changing room. It was very hard for him to find the right words to speak to the players, so there'll be a lot of people dejected, but the only way to go is to bounce back. That's what David Gray and this team will be looking to do, but a really difficult game against Dundee. I love what Stephen Presley's been doing at Dens Park, and I think the fans are really, really bought into him. He's lost some of his best players. He finds a way, and he's done none more so than last week away at Tannadice. Simon Murray, a guy who's a talisman for Dundee out, and they still managed to come up clean sheet, 2 goals. So I think that'll be a really good game on Sunday. I really do, and I think Dundee, maybe just because where Hibs are mentally after last night, I think look to be in a driving seat for that one.
And Cammy, Scott touched on it there, the derby win for Dundee. Were they just on cloud nine all week after that? Is that what it's like after a derby win?
Yeah, you're on a high. That should take you into the next game. That bounce into the next game. But I know what the management and the coaching staff would have been. It's maybe have your couple of days off, whatever it may have been. Go and enjoy the game. Go and enjoy the night. But when you come back into training, the full focus is right on Hibs. And there's as we touched on there. They're so well drilled just now, Dundee. That everything that they're doing is spot on. And as somebody that loves coaching, loves football, loves watching the games, that's what you want to see in a manager. Maybe somebody that's not, as you say, at the start, fans weren't for the appointment, but they've went and actually showed it. They've went and done it. They've went and showed it, and they're building every week. And they've had loads to contend with as well. They've had loads to contend with transfers going away, Simon getting injured, and makes for a really interesting game at the weekend.
It certainly does. The other interesting game, certainly on Sunday. St Mirren against Motherwell. I think that's two sides who really want to play attractive football. Certainly, obviously, Motherwell might have that European hangover, Scott. But where do you see that one going?
I think Motherwell for me still favourites. I think loving what Alfred's doing. I think side with clear clarity. To a man, know exactly what they're trying to do when they step on the football pitch, which can't be said for some of the bigger teams in the country, I would say. So yeah, in the same way St Mirren with Craig McLeish, listen, they'll not be happy with the performance against Rangers. But at the same time, they did create chances. And when you don't take the chances, especially at Ibrox, these sort of things can happen. But I do feel it'll be a good game of football, but I expect Motherwell to come through that.
And St Mirren have obviously made another signing this week, Cammy. He might go on to be their most important player. Of course he will be. He's a right back after all. Calvin Ramsey has joined on loan from Liverpool. He said he's looking to kickstart his career. How big a signing is that, and how important could he be for the Buddies this season?
Yeah, it's a big signing, but again, he needs to go and prove himself. I think I could be wrong, but he came up to Kelly last couple of years, didn't really kick on for him. He didn't really seem to do as well as he maybe wanted to. I don't know if that was through injury, etc. or what, but it's a big opportunity for him. But it's one of them that they've probably put their faith in him to go and do a job for them and do well. But he needs to go and repay them. And he's got obviously a big pedigree coming up from Liverpool after his move down from Aberdeen. But yeah, I think it'll be a good game. Two teams that are desperate to play football, two teams that are desperate to get the ball down, and probably similar to Scotty. I think it'll be another Motherwell victory. Great team. I like watching them. I really do. It's good to watch them, so it'll be a good one.
It certainly will. Well, that's all we've got time for. Remember, we're here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every day. So to make sure you don't miss out, subscribe on BBC Sounds and have push notifications turned on your phone. Many thanks to Scott and Cammy, and thank you for listening. Remember, it's the Fife Derby tonight on the BBC Scotland channel, so don't forget to tune into that as well. See you at East End. Goodbye.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.